All right, let's talk about Brighton Marina. It's Britain's largest marina, and from the outside, it's all sparkling water, fancy boats, and a fun day out, right? But what if I told you that just below that shiny surface, there are these incredible hidden stories? We're talking about a constant battle with the sea, the real deal truth about living there, and something completely wild and unexpected. Okay, let's dive in. So first up, you've got the image the marina wants you to see, the official brochure version. It's all about being bustling with life, bursting with energy. You know the vibe. It's sold as this perfect all-in-one destination where you can eat, shop, and play, all with that gorgeous sea view. And look, they're not wrong. There's a ton of stuff to do. You can catch a movie, go bowling, play some pretty wild mini golf. It's basically a massive entertainment complex. The whole setup is designed to be the perfect day out. But that's just the glossy cover on a much more complicated book. So that's the big question, isn't it? What's really going on when you peel back that perfect postcard view? Well, it turns out there's a massive hidden struggle happening 24/7 just to stop the whole thing from being swallowed by the ocean. And that brings us to this first secret layer, the unseen engineering battle. See, Bright Marina isn't just sitting there looking pretty. Nope, it is in an active, relentless fight against the sea, every single second of every single day. And the scale of this fight, it's just incredible. The unsung heroes in this battle are these things called caissons. Think of them as giant hollow concrete cylinders. There are 110 of them that make up the marina's breakwaters, those huge seawalls that are literally taking a beating from the waves, so all the boats inside can just bob around peacefully. And the forces they're up against? They are absolutely relentless. The salt water is constantly trying to eat away at the steel bars inside the concrete. The sea itself is trying to scour away the seabed from underneath them. And that's not even mentioning climate change, which is bringing higher sea levels and way more powerful storms, including the potential for a once-in-a-thousand-years kind of monster storm. To give you an idea of what it takes to fight back, just look at this number. 26 tons. That's how heavy a vehicle the main seawall, the breakwater, had to be reinforced to handle. We are talking about massive, heavy-duty construction trucks driving out over the ocean just to do the constant repair work. It's wild. Now, this is where the engineers got really clever. To make those hollow caissons stronger, they decided to fill them up with concrete. But check out how they did it. They literally sucked out the sand and gravel that was already inside, mixed it into fresh concrete right there on the breakwater, and then just poured it back in. It's an absolutely brilliant, sustainable solution. But here's the thing, it's a never-ending war. Even after all that work, by the end of 2020, there were still 67 of these giant caissons left to fill. This constant struggle with nature is the hidden foundation of the entire marina. And for some people, this battleground is also home. So what's it actually like to live in the middle of all this? Which brings us to our next layer, the dream of waterfront living. For a lot of people, the idea of a luxury water lodge, basically a fancy floating apartment, sounds amazing. It promises this unique, cool lifestyle, a definite step up from just living on a boat right in the heart of everything. And for some, that dream is totally real. I found this comment on Reddit from a user named Alfie65 talking about his ex-partner. He says she absolutely loves it. She's having the time of her life on there. I mean, that sounds pretty idyllic, right? And you can see the appeal. People who love it talk about how gorgeous it is in the summer, how there's a really great community of other liveaboards. Plus, let's be honest, it's a pretty cool thing to tell people at a party. And hey, there are practical perks too, like free water and access to laundry on shore. But you know there's a but coming. Because when you dig into the accounts from people who've lived there long term, a very different reality starts to take shape. And it's a reality that one resident said you have to look at, quote, through shit-tinted specs. And that quote from Reddit user Puzzleheadedfold53 just says it all. It's about taking off the rose-colored glasses, forgetting the romance, and facing the cold, hard, and sometimes not so pleasant truths of what it's really like to live there. And here's the perfect example. The dream of it being so lovely in summer slams right up against the reality of it being truly miserable in the winter. We're talking heavy storms and gales rocking your home. In fact, a few former residents said that's exactly what drove them back to solid ground, the brutal winters. So what about that idyllic waterfront vibe? Well, another resident just cuts right through all the marketing hype with this absolute gem. They said, essentially, it's a floating car park. Oof. suddenly sounds a lot less romantic and a lot more industrial. And then you get to the nitty-gritty hassles. The mooring fees alone can be thousands of pounds a year. The saltwater rusts and corrodes everything. The lodges can get cold and damp and, yes, buggy. Residents also mentioned having almost no privacy, dealing with what they called hostile management, and getting hit with extra fees for basic things like electricity and halfway decent internet. Suddenly, that dream starts to look pretty expensive and exhausting. Okay, so we've got a tourist hotspot built on a massive, ongoing engineering project that's also a pretty challenging place to call home. You think that's the whole story, right? But there is one last, totally surprising layer to peel back, and you find it clinging to the edges of all that concrete and steel. Just take a look at this map. It's from a group called Sea Search, and it highlights key spots for studying marine life along the coast. And what do you see right there, marked as a survey site? Brighton Marina East. This completely man-made structure has somehow become a hotspot for scientific research. And this is no accident. Groups like the Sussex Wildlife Trust are actively studying the life here with their shore search program. It's amazing. Volunteers actually go out and comb the shoreline of the marina, identifying and recording all the little creatures, plants, and habitats that have decided to move in. So in this really bizarre, beautiful twist, this super artificial, heavily engineered place has become a valuable natural habitat. Scientists are actually studying it to learn more about protecting local marine life. The very concrete walls that were built to keep nature out have accidentally created a brand new home for it. So, at the end of the day, what is Brighton Marina? It's an engineering marvel and a constant war with the ocean. It's a dream home for some and a frustrating nightmare for others. And, against all odds, it's a thriving, wild ecosystem. It's all of these things at once, and it kind of leaves you with this big question. How do we balance the worlds we build for ourselves with the world we just find?